What is up, guys? It's your favorite producer, Wow Eli, coming back for another beat breakdown. This time it is for a not piano trap beat. Isn't that crazy? This is for Run to Safety with me and my boy Jude. We did this when we were in Nashville together. It's a super vibey song, probably one of the best, or I'd say one of my favorite tracks that I've produced so far. I'm gonna put the link for the music video in the description, so you should go check that out and then come back and watch how I made the beat. So we're gonna start with the melody, and I actually got this dope guitar sample from this dude I found on Instagram. He's under Sebastian Greer. I'm gonna put his @ on the screen so that you guys can be put onto him, and any other producers that want dope guitar loops, definitely cop them from this guy. He also does have a free kit with some of them. This one came from his Juice WRLD guitar loop pack. It's called Alright, and it's in D sharp minor, and this is what it sounds like all together. It just sounds super nice. The guitar sound is excellent. I was going through samples with Jude, and as soon as I started playing this one, he really liked it and told me to make a beat with that. So that is what I did. Can't talk highly enough about this dude's loops. He's great at playing the guitar. Makes some really good stuff. We started with that guitar loop and then just went straight to the clap. Pretty simple, you know. Yes, sir. This clap came from an Internet Money kit, specifically a Rio Leva. I'm not sure if that's the right way to pronounce that name, but it's his 20K drum kit, Molly clap. I also got the hi-hats from him, so let's go through those. Again, I have two patterns, so this is the first one. So you can tell this one's pretty simple. This is definitely the slower one that's meant for like the rhythm and the bounce. I like to start out with simple ones like that just to kind of get the feel of the bounce I'm going to go for. So just having that, it really set the pace for the drums I was going to lay down. So then after that, I added the classic two-step hi-hat just to fill up the space, and then added some rolls to add dynamics, and then did a walk down on some parts. So here's that. You can see on some of the rolls I actually pitched them down a little bit to add even more variety. So then this is what the hi-hats, both patterns, and the clap sound like all together. I think it's just a really solid bounce and flow to start off with. So we had the hi-hats and the clap, and then I also added these perks for more rhythm. And if you look over here, you can see that when I have the doubles, I have them one panned left and one panned right, so that it goes back and forth between your ears, just little details. And then I have one perk that comes in later. There's actually two that hit at the same time, so let's hear that. So that is, this first perk is almost like a little rattle sound. And then the second one, if you watch my last beat breakdown, there's this sound that kind of sounded like a Minecraft door. It was also used in EXO Tour Life, so I have that here again. So I just layered that with the little rattle sound. And then let's hear that with the hi-hats and the clap so you can hear it all together. Next, I'm pretty sure I did the kick, which I got from my drum kit. It's the hitter kick, the first one in there. So here's that. It might look like there's like a lot of kicks in some places, but I really tried to keep it pretty simple. Like all these kicks just go on the same bounce as the hi-hats I laid down before. And you can see that like I had some in here and then I left some empty space at the end before the next measure came in. So I didn't have them going like all the time. I had them in a little bit and then I had them breathe, brought them back a bit, had them breathe again, and then had some rolls at the end for the transition to the next measure. I like having little stuff at the end like that. Just, it almost like kind of marks that the next section is coming. I feel like doing the kick first helps me figure out where I want the 808s to hit and what pattern I want to use. And then after I get that, I can figure out what notes I want the 808 to play at the pattern of the kicks. So instead of trying to do the 808 first and figure out where I want it to hit and which notes I should use, I figure out the where first and then the note later. Let's listen to this 808. So what's kind of interesting about this 808 pattern is that most of the notes are very high up in the range. Usually I have them down here from like C5 to the G5 area, but I have all this in the upper 5, but all these notes are basically an octave up from what I would normally do. So normally I would have it more like this. So yeah, I figured out where I want the 808 to hit with the kick pattern, and then I have to figure out what notes I want to use. So the first step for me knowing what notes I want to use is figuring out what key it's in. This sample says it's in D sharp minor. If you know music theory, you'll be able to know like what notes are in that key. And sometimes samples will say they're in a certain key, but then it's like off a little bit. So I just like to double check using this plugin called Mixed In Key. I think it's pretty good at figuring out the key of melodies and all that. So let's let it play and see what it says. All right, so it does say it's mostly F sharp major, but D sharp minor is the relative minor of that. So technically F sharp major and D sharp minor are the same keys, so that does back up the key that the sample says it's in. So now that we know that, if you don't know what key or if you don't know what notes are in the key of D sharp minor or E flat minor, whatever you want to call it, you can look that up online and find an answer on what notes to use. So now that I know what notes I can use, that gives me an idea of what I'm going to do with the 808s. There's like two ways to go about it. One, I'll just hear it out and play around with the notes and see what I like. If I don't do that, I will try to play by ear and find the bass notes of the samples and just follow the bass notes. I don't think I followed the bass notes exactly. I just kind of I tried to get what I was feeling from it, and what I came up with was starting on A sharp, coming down to G, going back up to D sharp. So yeah, I ended up picking these notes. It's a really simple 808 pattern, but I wanted it to be simple, but to just be good or really good. So it didn't have to be a lot. It just had to be the right notes. Just to make the 808 stand out, you can hear all that distortion I added. And that was just because so far with the melody, it's very light and airy and high in the frequency range. So I wanted the 808 to have more higher frequencies to make it stand out also, and like go along with the other higher frequency sounds in the beat. And once, like, you can add a lot of distortion to an 808, and once you start playing it with the beat and someone lays vocals on it, it's not as easy to hear how much distortion there is. So you kind of have to overcompensate. Like, if you want a lot, you have to do more than you think. You can add a little bit and no one really notices. Now that we have the 808s, we're going to play it with the other perks and see what it sounds like. So yeah, now that we have the whole beat, let's play it with the melodies. And here's what it sounds like all together. As you can tell, it's a simple beat, but all the simple things I just put time and effort into making sure that they were really good. Then after I made the beat, I had Jude give me his acapellas, put it in here, and then did my post-production. So I made little changes like adding these transition sounds just to help it switch to different parts of the song more smoothly. It makes the drop way harder, especially because I have this glass in here. That's mainly a trap sound, but you can use it in so many ways. I think it made the drop like hit perfectly on this beat. And then when he goes into the pre-chorus before the drop again, I made that transition to make it drop harder, where I just repeated sections at the tail end of it. So stuff like those transitions, and then there's this part right here where he's saying, "Can I talk to the warden? Swear it's important." And I basically put this low pass filter on so that it was mainly just the 808 hitting, and all you hear is like the bass going hard and Jude like singing those vocals.
Wow, Eli. Can you be a little more serious?